In class today, we'll be going over the 2019 Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System subset data, and we'll be conducting a t-test to see if there's any correlation between, or any difference rather, between weight between the two genders. We will be recording this using the PowerPoint's screen record feature and not using Zoom or Loom this time because it did have a 5-minute exact time limit. All right, starting off on introducing what the topic is, the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System. It's put out there by the CDC, and it goes over a number of topics of the youth of these days and risky behavior such as smoking, engaging in sexual activity, a number of risk factors, driving without a license, drug use, things of that nature. Now, from the data set, it can be downloaded directly from the CDC data, so everything is pretty transparent on that front. Alright, so the first thing we're doing is connecting an independent samples t-test. We load the data into SPSS, click Analyze, come down to Compare Means, and then select Independent Samples t-test. From there, you're going to make sure all the sub boxes are checked. Now, in order to do a t-test, we've got an independent samples t-test. We've got to make sure that the 4 assumptions are met. We've got independence, the observations in one sample are independent of the observations in another, normality, both samples are approximately normally distributed, homogeneity, both samples have approximately the same variance, and both samples, the fourth one is both samples were obtained using a random sampling method. If those 4 conditions are met, you can perform the t-test. Alright, so for our test variable, we select weight in kilograms. And a grouping variable is sex, which has been broken down into 1s being females, 2s being males. What this shows us is that there is a significant difference in the average or mean weight in kilograms between males and females of over 11 kilograms being the average. Up here we have the standard deviation of 14 for females, 17 and some change for males. Standard error average being roughly the same to both. Now it does have a significance you'll see in the bottom under the independent samples test of less than 0.01. It does have, now looking for the 95% confidence interval of the difference on the lower end and the upper end for both male and female, we do have a significant number. Now when it is a negative, it doesn't necessarily matter, because if you switch the taste around the base in the test group, you would get positive numbers. What's important is that the number is higher than 0.05. So with that, it's a good indicator that you can reject the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis being that there is no difference between males and females. The alternate hypothesis would be there is a significant difference between males and females. And the critical value would be more than 0.05 in the confidence interval. All right, so given the amount of data we have and the type of data we've got, and the type of test that we need to perform, we're not actually just limited to the 2 independent sample t-test. We could use Mann-Whitney, chi-square, Fisher's exact, but keeping it simple, the chi-square test, if selected here, will actually make this a little simpler to understand as far as the null hypothesis is concerned. Now, using the same data on this screen, I did select that, and it'll show a significance standard up here, and just in plain English showing reject the null hypothesis. Again, the null hypothesis being that there's no difference in the average weight between the males and females, and we show that there clearly was. All right, thank you for watching this presentation. Again, this one was used with the CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System, their main webpage for that. We've got their actual data set provided to us from the CDC and also downloadable in this class. We've got the CDC's user's guide for how to understand the data. This was a very helpful link for kind of interpreting some of the more coded sounding items in the data set. We've got our main textbook for this class and also the GCU Student Success Center for helping to figure out which tests to pick and which tests can be picked for the same data sets. Thank you very much and enjoy your evening.